All right, I'm here with John Hathaway. You've got quite the signatures on your hat. Can you tell me a little about it?
Yeah, they're just different candidates that came from like 2020, 2024.
And what made you want to come out to today's event for Don Jr.?
I did vote for Trump the last couple times there, and I haven't had a chance to see him yet, so I figured I'd better make it.
What are you hoping to hear from him today ahead of the Iowa caucus tonight?
Just getting everybody fired up and stuff like that.
Do you think you'll support him tonight at the Iowa caucus, or is there any other candidates that are intriguing you?
Yeah, I'll probably support them. I mean, there's a few of them that are trying to pull my arm, get me, and stuff. I mean, Nikki Haley had made her ad and stuff, on TV commercial there.
Yeah. And what specific issues are you most concerned about going into the next election?
The economy there with inflation, the border, stuff with Ukraine, stuff like that, and Israel and everything.
Do you have any concerns about seeing another Biden-Trump face-off if Trump becomes the nominee?
Not really. I'm not worried about it.
What do you think Trump needs to do to win the next election?
Oh, I think people will go with his record and stuff, And so, I mean, they liked he did a good job, So I think they'll just stick with that,
And Bob, right? What made you want to come out today?
I think just the constant persecution of Donald Trump, how quickly everyone forgot, his first 3 years, and everybody wants to be very critical of the way he handled COVID. But I think, not being a career politician, I think he was probably a bit overwhelmed and taken by Washington. I don't think the Republican establishment had his back the way they should have, and I think he's learned a lot from that. So I want to support him through this run. Hopefully he has another chance to prove what he's learned, and hopefully we can have at least as good, if not better, than the first 3 years he was in office prior to COVID.
What do you think would be different if he was in office again now that we've had a Joe Biden term?
Well, I think a lot of people on the left hopefully will realize that maybe Trump wasn't as bad as they might have thought. I think 2016 you saw a lot of people losing their heads as if it was the end of the world. And in all fairness, he did a really great job. And then COVID come along, and I'm not sure anybody at that time knew how to handle that. I keep hearing from a lot of DeSantis supporters that, DeSantis stood up for it. Well, not in the beginning, he didn't. And I think what was great about the way Trump handled it, although ultimately wrong, he did and stuck with what he believed at the time. And he didn't waver from that. And I want a man that stands behind his convictions. And I think now that he's kind of learned the way Washington works, and he's learned to look past a lot of the lies and not to be so trusting, because I think that's a great thing about Trump. Also a bad thing about Trump is I think he likes to give people the benefit of the doubt. He likes to see the positive in them, and I think that kind of took him in the COVID situation, and I don't think that'll happen again.
What do you think the nation as a whole, I mean, I'm an Iowan, you guys are Iowans, what do you think that they don't realize about tonight's process of the caucuses? What do you think that maybe is missing from the national conversation?
I think what the national conversation is probably two things. The importance of the legacy that we're going to leave on. None of us are going to be here forever. Trump, us, none of us. And we have a legacy to leave for our children and our grandchildren. And on the path that we're on, it's not going to be a good one. And I just think overall, it's faith. We've lost faith in schools. We've lost, recently we had a shooting here in Perry, Iowa. And I don't know that much about the shooter, but I would guess that faith probably wasn't a strong sense in his life. And I feel like we need a candidate that ultimately believes in our Savior Jesus Christ, and I believe we need a candidate that will stand firm against the establishment and against, we recently had Satan worshipers displaying at our state capitol. And we have to ask ourselves as a nation, is that a legacy that we want to continue? Is that a legacy that we want across this nation? And I would hope and pray that ultimately the answer is no.
What about you, John? What do you think is missing from the national conversation about the Iowa caucuses happening tonight?
But national thing, I mean, it's kind of nice we're like first in the state for people can see and meet everybody, and see their point of views on things. And so I think it's a good place to show everybody all that, and things. So.
All right, I'm here with Todd and Michelle from Waukee. Tell me a little bit about what brought you out today.
We are excited to caucus for Trump and to get him back where he belongs, where he should have been. This will be his third term as president. They just made him sit out the second one. And we're very, very happy to get the opportunity to hear and to support and to see other people that support him as well.
What do you guys think needs to be different about this next election for him to make it in office in November?
Well, for one thing, they have to make sure that the ballots aren't going to be too many mail-in ones where they were putting the 10 envelopes in at one time. So they need to make sure that there's no cheating this time. There just has to be a lot more oversight. Maybe the monitors need to wear cameras. Anybody that's in there. We're just really wanting him to get in, and we want it to be fair, and just make sure every vote's counted at once.
Oh, yeah.
What about moderate voters? I mean, that's kind of the big middle ground right now that Democrats and Republicans are trying to appeal to. How do you think Trump needs to appeal to those moderate voters?
Honesty and integrity. And he's a very honest person, but people don't see that. They take the arrogance, they think because of his money and his backing, they don't believe in all of that. But know the man and know what he stands for. Look what he did his first 4 years. What is he going to do the next 4? It'll be amazing. Give him a chance.
What do you think?
Well, basically the same thing. I mean, his policies, you look at his policy, the peace treaties he did, the trade deals, he did so much for our country, and it was all good. Look what happened afterwards. Everything's falling apart, and we've got 5 wars going on. So we just wanted to. We think that things will calm down if Trump's in there. On the world stage, people respect him. Other countries respect him, and we're going to have a lot more peace, I think, once he gets back in.
What issues are most important to you two going into this next election that you guys are kind of thinking about?
My most important are probably the border, get it closed down. Also, maybe cut off funding for the illegal immigrants. I mean, if they don't have funding, they're not going to come over here. And the other thing is, I think that we need to, inflation. He needs to get oil and everything up again. And he also needs to, just with his good trade deals and his good policy practices, things are going to turn around.
Honestly, I think that what he needs to do is to go back in there and pick up where he left off. Turn the country back where it belongs, put it where it needs to be, and start to get the America to back him as a whole. And we have too much negativism out there. We need to get that turned, if there's any way.
Now, obviously, DeSantis is kind of the other person in the race that Trump and him have been making barbs at one another. And Governor Kim Reynolds, who was once supportive of Trump, has now supported DeSantis. What are your thoughts on that as Iowans?
I'm not against DeSantis. I just think that President Trump has shown he can do it. I think that there's a place for DeSantis maybe in the next presidential election. I just think that he's just not quite ready for that yet. And also that I think he should step back and let Trump take the stage. And I think he'll be at some point in the future he may be a good candidate.
What about you?
I kind of second her comments there. I totally believe that. I think that things will go in a good direction, but I don't believe that DeSantis is the answer right now. I think the country is too strong-willed, and they need somebody a little tougher, and it's going to take Trump to do it.
Final question for you. There's a lot of media in town right now. I'm an Iowan. You guys are Iowans.
Yes.
We've seen this process roll out, but what do you think is missing from the national conversation about Iowa and about the caucuses tonight?
They think we're too small. Iowa is just that little spot on the map. They don't even know where Iowa is. I travel a lot for my job, and when you tell people you're from Iowa, they go, well, where's that? They don't even know. But we do make a difference. We have been around for years. I believe that the Midwest people have honesty and have the ability to realize what it takes to get the country going. And we back the right people. We really do. And when you take a look at the caucuses and you take a look at where we're at, most of the time when you get a winner out there, Iowa's the one that's put them up there first.
Logic and common sense. I just think we're just down to earth, and we're the everyday people. We're the ones that we're living the policies, and the policies affect us. And so I think that's important, and I think Mr. Trump does, or President Trump, he does speak to the people, and the policies affect us, and I think he supports the common people.
Blake from San Diego, you drove all the way here. What brought you out?
Well, I just feel it's important to support President Trump as he goes into the Iowa caucus. I wanted to come and lend what little support I can do. And I drove out here. I just think it's, I wanted to be at a couple of the events. We know that some of them were canceled due to snow and the weather, and I understand that. But I did make the rally in Indianola. It was great to see him there.
What issues are most important to you going into this next election?
Well, the most important issue for me is border security. And I can tell you that at the Commit to Caucus meeting President Trump had yesterday, that's the one thing that he got the loudest and longest standing ovation for when he talked about the situation on our southern border. I think that's something that affects everyone in America, even if you're not next to Mexico. Every state now is effectively a border state, because once those illegal aliens cross the border, they are coming everywhere in America.
And you're wearing your border wall jacket. You are ready to go. What are you hoping to do in support of him today? Are you just wanting to show up for the events? Are you trying to talk to caucus goers since you yourself cannot caucus?
Well, I've put out some information on where people can go to caucus. I'm using my social media. I'm on Twitter at BrickSuit, and so I have a little bit of a following there. So whatever I can use in terms of that, even though I am from California, trying to leverage that into support for President Trump, not only here in Iowa, but also beyond.
The big question right now is around the middle ground, those independent, moderate voters. What do you think Trump needs to do to get their vote this next election?
Well, I think what he needs to do is cut through a lot of the bias that's in the legacy media. I think that he's been unfairly vilified and unfairly made a scapegoat for a lot of things that have happened since he left office. And I think if people look objectively at his agenda, they're going to like it. And on the flip side, the Democrats are a disaster. So the flip side of the equation is Joe Biden is just horrible, one of the worst presidents we ever had. He's steering America. If we were a ship and Joe Biden was a captain, he would be steering us onto the rocks. And that's really what's happening. And I think people need to wake up and realize that, and that we need to change, because otherwise it's going to be a big wreck.
What do you think people who are maybe nervous about another Joe Biden, Donald Trump face-off, what do you think that they need to hear in order to sway their vote as well? Because we could be facing the same election we did in 2020.
I think realistically, we are going to face the same election we saw in 2020, unless Joe Biden pulls a last-minute switcheroo. And I don't think that there's no way that Joe Biden's going to not be the Democratic nominee based on voting. It's only if he withdraws. And if he withdraws, I would expect that to come late in the primary in the season or right before the DNC National Convention. As for President Trump, he's going to be the nominee. So there's no avoiding it. That's what we're heading towards right now, Trump versus Biden, unless Biden drops out at the last minute, which is a possibility.
We still have quite a few candidates in this race, including Ron DeSantis, which a lot of, I think, former Trump supporters have been kind of swayed towards. What do you think his realistic expectations are?
I don't think they're good. I think that, we know that Ron DeSantis was polling much higher before he actively started campaigning, when he was on his book tour. And, once he actually started campaigning, his numbers trended down. And I think it's also a misnomer to label all Ron DeSantis voters as former President Trump supporters, because the vast majority of them also still support President Trump. It's just that in the primary, they may have a different preference. So I don't view those people as being former Trump supporters. They're just someone who, in a primary or in a caucus, has wants to express support for a different candidate, that's our system. That's fine, and I believe that all the Republican voters will come together in November.
Finally, what do you think is missing from this national conversation around this specific election? There's a lot going on with, obviously, Iowa caucuses right now, but the Trump legal battles that he's facing, what do you think needs to be discussed?
Well, on the Trump legal battles, I believe that they're all manufactured charges, weaponized DOJ activities to divert his finances and his time and his energy away from the campaign trail. But I believe that they will all backfire because I don't think that any of those will come to fruition before the election. He won't be prevented from being on any ballots. He won't be prevented from running for president. And in a way, it just validates what he's always said, that aspects of the entrenched DOJ are out to get him. And I think it proves that point because people look at the type of charges he's facing that have never been brought against anybody else, specifically in the documents case, not charged with Joe Biden, who had many more documents from a wider range of period of time and didn't have Presidential Immunity Act protection, had them stored in his office in one city, at a college, at his house. So multiple sites, not charged with anything. So I don't think that any of those are going to come to any bad result for President Trump. And in fact, continual publicity about them is just going to make more people realize that, yes, President Trump is being attacked unfairly and politically.
Thank you so much, Blake, for your time. I appreciate it.
David?
Patricia?
And what made you guys want to come out and support Don Jr. at this event where he's going to be speaking for his dad?
Well, we're both ministers, and we heard from heaven that God picked Trump.
We believe in Trump, and so we want to support in any way that we can.
Obviously, it's caucus night. What do you think Donald Trump, or what message should get across to some of those undecided caucus goers?
Well, I always tell them about Jesus, and that power usually hits them and gets them convicted. I said, if you really believe in God in this country, you got to pick the person that God wants to win.
And, Trump has a true proven track record. The economy was better, the borders were safer, the gas prices were less. Everything was just so different, so much better when Trump was in office. People respected America, and right now, I'm pretty sure they don't respect Biden.
What do you think is the biggest issue that's concerning to you guys as we head to the polls this year?
Well, what she has said, the border, the respect of the world, make America great again. This is a great nation. It had a move of God that started it, and we went too far away. We need to get back to our roots.
The biggest concern is that we don't have anything at the polls that we did last time with them trying to cheat and the rigged elections. We're just declaring against that in Jesus' name, that they're going to be true elections, that people are going to do the right thing, and anybody trying to do anything wrong is going to get caught.
Now, obviously, you guys are Iowans. I'm an Iowan. We've all seen the caucus process before, but what do you think is missing from the national conversation about the Iowa caucuses that are about to occur tonight?
Well, I just talked to some of our other friends, and what happened yesterday was a God moment, and the media don't ever report that. Most of the media.
So we're declaring that they start reporting all of it, all the truth.
What do you think needs to happen for Trump to take office in this next year if we see another Biden-Trump face-off?
I don't believe we've got a lot of ministers. We got like 100 people on his Trump faith team that we got prayer going out to declare against all that stuff, so they're going to be found out. It's going to be stopped.
Amen. I agree.
My name's Kat, and I'm from Johnston, Iowa.
Awesome. So what brought you out to this event featuring Donald Jr. for Trump?
Well, I've been here several times. Donald Trump Jr. has been here before, and I came to see President Trump here a couple of months ago. This is a great venue for candidates to come and speak. It's a great event location.
Obviously, the big middle ground is moderates and independents. What do you think Donald Trump needs to do to appeal to those voters and caucus goers right now?
Well, I think he's doing it. I think that a lot of people who maybe thought he was kind of a person who was too outspoken and not maybe as very nice as some of the other people, I think now they see how he's been tortured and prosecuted, and they see, again, like Mr. Donald Trump says, that he's standing between us. Well, let's see. They're standing between us and you.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of there's a lot of other candidates. We can definitely edit this. Don't worry about. There are a lot of candidates out in the field right now. One of which is Ron DeSantis, which is obviously taking barbs with Donald Trump. What do you think of his chances tonight?
Well, one of the things about Ron DeSantis is he's a nice guy. He's a veteran, he's a family man, and he's been a good governor of one state. Up against tried and true President Trump, who's been an awesome president for 50 states, tried and true. What do you think?
Now, obviously, Kim Reynolds has endorsed DeSantis. How do you think that's impacted Trump or DeSantis's chances tonight?
You know who it's really impacted is Kim Reynolds. I don't know why she didn't just stay neutral, why she decided to endorse him. She should have just kept her mouth shut. Because I think that probably what happened is that the fetal heartbeat people came and said, we need to support Ron DeSantis. I don't think that she's always been a Trump person. And so I don't really know why she did, except that I think she was probably had her hands tied.
What do you think of all these legal battles that are happening for Trump right during the campaign season time? How do you think that's impacting him?
Well, obviously, he's up in the polls. And now, recently, in the last couple of weeks, we have Letitia James scandals and the judge, Enderon. And then we also have the awesome Fannie Willis, Nathan, I can't think of his last name, Pate, I believe. They have their scandal. These people are corrupt, and they're bringing charges against Donald Trump for no reason at all. They're not even criminal charges. So anyway, I think that he'll probably be able to walk away from all of it, and we can have a nice, clean election.
Finally, what do you think is missing from the national conversation about Iowa's Iowa caucus tonight?
What's missing? Well, they don't realize how important Iowa is. Iowa represents the best people with the best heart and honest people, and our farmers, which they feed the country. They feed the world. What do they think? And they seem to be able to be supporting Trump.